The padlock cost $7.49. You're standing in the lock aisle at Lowe's on a Saturday morning. Fluorescent lights humming that specific frequency only hardware stores seem to own. You pick it up, turn it over. Read the back like there's going to be something new there. There isn't. You've bought this exact model maybe 200 times. Master lock, 3D, laminated steel. The cheap ones rust out in about a year. You learn that the hard way. Your phone buzzes. You pull it out, thumb already moving. Occupancy alert. You own 3 storage facilities in Memphis. Over 400 units between them. 94% occupied right now. The monthly deposits just cleared. $38,700 sitting in your account. No calls. No emails. No one standing at a gate at 2 a.m. wondering why the code doesn't work. You put the phone back. A woman in the next aisle is arguing with her husband about shelf brackets. Nobody is looking at you. That's the whole point. It started 11 years ago. You were fixing a toilet in Unit 6B of the Ridgecrest Apartments, east side of Memphis. You were 27. You made $16.50 an hour. You had about $1,800 in your checking account, which was actually a good month because you'd picked up weekend shifts at another complex on Shelby Drive. You drove a Ford Ranger with a cracked windshield you kept telling yourself you'd fix next month. You owned a toolbox, a phone, and a mattress on a box spring that sat on the floor because you hadn't gotten around to buying a frame. That was everything. The self-storage place was next door, 30 feet from the apartment parking lot. A1 budget storage, 44 units, rusted orange doors, chain-link fence with green slats woven through it. The sign out front had been sun-bleached so long nobody could read the phone number anymore. The owner was a man named Earl, 71 years old, arthritis in both hands that he never mentioned unless he was having trouble with the padlock on the office door, which was every morning. Earl had owned that facility for 19 years. You knew Earl because he'd knock on the maintenance office twice a month, asking if you had WD-40. You always did. One Thursday, while you were handing him the can, he said something you almost didn't hear because the AC unit was rattling. I'm so damn tired. Not dramatic, just tired. The kind of tired that's been accumulating for 19 years.
You said, "You need help?" Earl looked at you like he was deciding if you were serious or just polite. "What do you know about storage?" And you said, "I know how to fix things and show up." Which wasn't really an answer, but Earl was too tired to argue. The arrangement was simple. You'd manage the facility mornings before your maintenance shift, evenings after, weekends full-time. Earl would pay you 15% of any new rental revenue you brought in. Not existing tenants, new ones. Out of 44 units, only 61% were occupied, 17 doors that hadn't opened in months. First thing you did was clean. Pulled weeds from the fence line, swept the access road, replaced 4 exterior light bulbs that had been dead so long the spiders had built permanent infrastructure. You spent $340 of your own money on gravel for the potholes near the gate, the ones that filled with standing water every time it rained. Rita was Earl's night manager, late 50s, sensible shoes. She smoked exactly 1 cigarette at 6 p.m. every evening on the bench by the dumpster. She watched all of this without comment for 2 weeks. Then she said, "Earl's had 4 people try to help. You're the first one who started with the light bulbs." You said, "They were out." She nodded. "That's what I mean." First new tenant showed up in week 3. A guy named Terry. Boat trailer storage, $89 a month. Your cut was 15% of that, $13 and change. By month 4, you'd signed 11 new tenants. Your monthly cut had grown to $146. You looked at that number sitting in your truck with the engine off. It wouldn't cover your phone bill. But it existed. It hadn't existed before. Nobody talks about storage. It doesn't trend. People rent a unit, put their stuff in it, and pay every month for years without thinking about the person who owns the building. The boring things just sit there, quietly working, while everyone else chases the thing that glows. You were starting to understand that. 8 months in, occupancy hit 93%. Earl sat across from you at the metal desk. He said, "I want to go fishing." He didn't mean for the weekend. The facility was making $4,300 a month. He wanted $285,000 for it. You had $6,400 in savings. SBA loan, 10% down. You brought Earl a written proposal on a Tuesday. He read it twice. "You're serious?" You said, "I've been here every morning for 8 months, Earl." He looked at the proposal, then at you. "Yeah, you have." You closed on a Friday in March, $28,500 down. Most of it came from a 401k you didn't even know you could borrow from. Karen Cho told you, your accountant. She used 0 unnecessary words. You were 29 years old. You owned a storage facility. You drove home in the Ranger and sat in the parking lot for 11 minutes. You know it was 11 because the song on the radio played twice.
Facility 2 came 9 months later. 48 units in Whitehaven. The seller was a woman named Yvonne, getting out after a divorce. You bought it for $312,000, same SBA loan structure. When you took over, barely 70% of the units were full. 5 months later, you had it at 94%. You were starting to see the pattern. Small facilities on half-acre lots, neighborhoods nobody from Wall Street would ever visit. Invisible to everyone except the person willing to drive there and fix the light bulbs. By year 4, you had 4 facilities. Monthly profit across all of them, $17,200. You'd quit the maintenance job. Rita stayed through the Earl transition. She managed 2 of the sites now. One morning at the Fraser gate, she said, "You know Earl calls me every couple weeks to ask how you're doing." You said, "What do you tell him?" She lit her cigarette. "I tell him you still start with the light bulbs." Dennis ran 6 facilities out of Tupelo, Mississippi. Ex-Navy, clean trucks, clipped sentences. He was 58 and not interested in building a kingdom. His words. You drove to Tupelo 4 times before he agreed to dinner. On the 5th visit, he gave you a number. $1.1 million for all 6. You negotiated it down to $940,000. He said, "Don't run them into the ground." You said, "I won't." He said, "I know. I asked around." 11 facilities, monthly profit $68,000. You didn't tell anyone. Not your mother, who still thought you did apartment maintenance. Not your old college roommate Marcus, who actually still did apartment maintenance. Not Linda at the gas station on Lamar, who sold you coffee every morning. She once asked what you did. You said, "Property management," which was true the way saying the ocean is water is true. Here's what nobody tells you about real money. The silence isn't modesty. It's infrastructure. The second someone knows, really knows, something shifts in their face. An almost imperceptible recalibration. Suddenly you're not a person anymore. You're a resource. A solution to a problem they've been carrying for years. So you learn to disappear. Not hide. Just not announce. The truck is a Silverado with 127,000 miles on it. There's a scratch on the tailgate you never fixed. Honestly, it makes the truck look exactly right. Like it belongs to someone who fixes things for a living. When people at the bank ask what you do and you say property management, you can watch them mentally adjust. Property management. They picture a clipboard and a set of gutters. That adjustment is useful. That adjustment is worth more than any car you could buy.
Mrs. Talbert. Unit 14 at the Fraser facility. She's paid $79 a month for 9 years. Never missed the first. She stores her late husband's tools. Table saw, band saw, 2 tool chests she can barely lift anymore. The unit smells like sawdust and old motor oil. Curtis's work jacket still hangs from a hook on the wall. Faded blue, one pocket torn. 9 years, and she hasn't moved a single thing. Just comes by once a month, unlocks the door, stands there for a few minutes, and locks it again. She came by on a Saturday in October while you were replacing a hinge. She told you, for the 3rd time, about how Curtis used to build birdhouses and sell them at the flea market. You listened, for the 3rd time, like it was new. When she left, she said, "You're the only one who keeps this place nice." She doesn't know you own it. She pays her $79 to a company name on a website that doesn't have your face anywhere on it. Something about that feels right, in a way you don't fully want to examine. Marcus called on a Sunday in November, behind on his truck payment, needed $1,500. You didn't send him $1,500. You drove to his apartment with your laptop and sat at his kitchen table for 3 hours. Showed him a spreadsheet, his expenses, his income, where the gaps were. You talked about it like something you'd been reading about, not something you'd been building since you were 29. He got quiet. Then he said, "I didn't realize how much I was just bleeding out." Yeah, that's the whole thing. Small, slow, inconveniently real. Your net worth crossed $381 million on a Tuesday. Karen Cho sent the email. Subject line, Q2 NAV summary. No exclamation point. Karen has never used an exclamation point in 4 years of quarterly emails. You were at Lowe's, Lock Aisle, picking up a case of Master Lock 3Ds for the Huntsville facility. Roy, the site manager, said units 40 through 46 needed new ones. 84 facilities, 14 states, over 12,000 units. You read the email standing under fluorescent lights that hum the same frequency you've been hearing since you were 27. You didn't call anyone. You put the padlocks in your cart, drove home, made dinner, sat on the porch and drank a beer that cost $1.19 from a case you bought Thursday. The street was quiet. Something in your chest. Not pride, not relief. Something more like recognition. Like looking across a long distance of time and giving a quiet nod to a kid who spent $340 on gravel for a parking lot that wasn't his. You thought about a 27-year-old standing in a parking lot with a bag of gravel, filling potholes at a storage facility he didn't own. The security guard from the apartments was watching from behind the fence. That particular expression people save for things they think are a waste of time. You thought he would not believe this. You thought every single quiet Saturday was worth it. You finished your beer, washed the plate, went inside. You drive past the Ridgecrest facility sometimes. The orange doors don't rust anymore. The sign is readable. The light bulbs work. Rita still smokes one cigarette at 6 p.m. on the bench by the dumpster. She waves when she sees the truck. Saturday morning. Lowe's. Lock Aisle. Your phone buzzes. Occupancy report. And underneath it, a notification. A 72-unit facility in Roanoke. The owner is a woman named Diane, 63 years old. She recently changed her LinkedIn bio to include the words, Exploring next chapter. You add her to a list. The list has 6 names on it. You pick up the padlock. $7.49. Same model, same aisle. The cashier scans it without looking up. Nobody in this store knows who you are. Nobody needs to. That's the whole thing.